The US market is opening on the optimistic note on Monday after strong weekly gains. On the one hand, elevated levels of US stocks indicate a robust economic recovery and the appetite for risk. On the other hand, it's risky to buy any assets at highs. So, investors are likely to wait for a retracement to enter this market with more long positions. So, the current market situation requires caution. The Dow Jones, which is viewed as a barometer of conditions of the US manufacturing sector, closed with a 0.9% rise on Friday. Today, the benchmark index for blue-chip stocks is trading at near 33,807. Analysts expect the index to trade in the corridor of 33,500 to 34,100, aiming for a new historic high. Having found strong support at the levels of 91.80 to 92.00 points, the US dollar index climbed to 92.30. The dollar's performance has been tied to US Treasury yields for most of 2021. Meanwhile, yields of the benchmark 10-year Treasuries are holding at 1.66%, much higher than yields of German bonds having sunk to minus 0.3%. Further prospects of the US dollar are still uncertain. On the one hand, the euro seems to be ready for a new bullish cycle. On the other hand, the US dollar received solid support from the bulls. All in all, the US dollar index is hovering in the range of 91.80 to 92.60 intraday. The greenback's growth against the Canadian dollar is capped. The currency pair is now trading at about 1.2560. The loonie is wound down by advantageous conditions of US markets. At the same time, rising oil prices are benefiting the Canadian currency. To sum up, a robust economic recovery in the United States and growing returns of dollar-denominated assets encourage investors to channel their capital to the US economy. A few landmark events for the crypto market took place this weekend. Both Bitcoin and other altcoins completed the downward correction and regained momentum. Not only Bitcoin but also Ripple hit historic highs. Importantly, Ripple surged by more than 30% in just 2 days. Other digital tokens followed suit. On Monday morning, Bitcoin conquered a new historic peak at $60,300. In other words, the most popular cryptocurrency rebounded off support at $54,000 to $55,000 and began a new bullish cycle in confidence. Amid the dazzling rally, the crypto market capitalization reached almost $2.1 trillion. The recognition of the digital assets by large market players does not allow the market to get trapped in a deep correction for long. The large-scale fiscal and monetary stimulus will ensure a long-term advance of the most popular cryptocurrency. Today, it's expected to reinforce above the level of $60,000 per token. Today, markets are trading quietly, but the main headwinds still persist. For Europe, the culprits of market turbulence are the third pandemic wave, delays in the mass vaccination, and the threat of military conflict in the eastern Ukraine. For the United States, there is a likelihood of a strong retracement in the equity market in case investors rush to lock in profits. However, this risk is not so grave because large investment funds will proceed with the buying stocks once the retracement is over. And that's all for today. We keep monitoring the financial market situation. Subscribe to our channel and see you tomorrow.